Hello and welcome to another jam-packed edition of Old Gold Tech. On today's show, we're wandering around the Centre for Computing History somewhere in Cambridge, but I'm not sure where because I was thrown in the back of a van with this thing. Right, so we're here at the Centre of Computing History and we're here with our gracious and very generous guide, Jason. Pleased to meet you, Jason.
Pleased to meet you.
Right, why does this place exist?
It exists because computers have changed our life over the past sort of 40 years. It's changed who we are as people and the way we live. And this is set up to document that change over that time and just show us how things have changed us.
Right, so documenting that change, step one, what is this?
This is the Altair 8800. It's quite commonly considered as the first personal computer. And that is it. There's no screen, no keyboard. You've got LEDs to show the output from it in binary, and you program it in binary on those switches. So
what would be the results from this? If I was to sit at home, I would use this just to do what?
You would ultimately that it was expanded. This was just the very beginning of things. Okay. So you could add a keyboard to it later on. Right. You could add a screen to it. But in the very early days when it was first used, one of the famous stories about it was a guy called Steve Dompierre.
Right.
He brought it to the Homebrew Club. He sat it down. He started programming it again in binary. Everyone was gathered around him. He sat a little tiny transistor radio on the back of it, and in the same way as your mobile phone interferes with the radio when somebody calls you, he flicked a switch, which was effectively the run switch, and it started interfering with the radio and started playing The Fall on the Hill. And that was sort of pretty much considered one of the first useful things to have been done with it, if you can call that useful.
I think it is useful. So this was the move from people having computers in their workplaces to them having them at home.
Yeah, I mean, the computers were in workplaces. They were huge sort of buildings and the computers filled rooms. But people wanted to be able to, like I say, have a machine that they could program for themselves. The Homebrew Club, which consisted of people like Bill Gates and
famous names.
Steve Jobs, Steve Wozniak. And they were at this sort of club and saw this. And it was pretty much, I think, fair to say, the beginnings of two completely separate strands of computing.
So the kings of Silicon Valley would have started on this?
Absolutely, yeah.
Welcome back. So we are in the big iron room with Jason. And Jason, please tell us, what is this wonderful kit?
Right, well this machine is the HP 1000. It was owned by Shell and used in their Thornton Research Centre.
Right, okay.
And basically it consists of two processor racks at that end there.
Wow.
Two tape drives.
Excellent, look at these, they're like something out of War Games.
Yeah, the kind of thing Benny Hill was playing with on the Italian Job.
Fantastic.
And then we have the hard drives down here.
So when you say hard drives, so these are huge washing machine type devices. So what would be the capacity of a typical hard drive of this size?
These things stored about 120 megabytes.
120 megabytes. So that's the equivalent of nothing compared to today. I mean, how many CDs could you fit in there? That's just amazing. So 120.
Yeah.
Wow.
But that was a lot of space at that time because we weren't storing thousands of pictures. It was just pure data.
Numbers.
So it was a fair amount for that time.
And what type of sort of things were these used for? Primarily crunching numbers, providing sort of finances, that type of thing?
Yeah, this sort of system was quite well known as being a control system, so this was probably operating machinery and things like that.
Right, so in production specifically.
Could well be.
Right.
And you've got sort of input-output modules down there that were then connected to other sorts of machinery.
So the typical sizes of these, you'd end up having like racks and racks of these in one big room. So there'd be huge rooms at the back of sort of data centers, and so I just filled with these things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Amazing quality.
Absolutely. And if you look at the system down there, I think it's these are memory modules down there, which are 120k and 128k each.
128k each. That's the equivalent of a sort of a new Spectrum, effectively. And this is an intriguing device.
Yep. Digital PDP 11 system. That one's a PDP 11 there, and on top is a PDP AT.
Wow.
And again, sort of massively used machines at the time.
And is this a newer version of this guy here?
Other way round, really.
Oh,
yeah.
right.
The one at the bottom is sort of a newer version, the PDP 11,
right.
with that took disk packs as well. So these are big disk drives down there.
Amazing.
And the older PDP AE, which is
so as they got bigger, they got newer. So there you go. Wonderful. Yeah, amazing. So we're going to go on to another room in a minute. So that's going to be the sort of game centre room.
Yeah, games. Yeah, the nostalgia room.
Okay, and we'll go back to that in a second.
So here we are in probably my favourite room of the museum, which is more the gaming room. And we can see all these wonderful machines just dotted around, and some from when I was at school. We've got the BBC here, and I remember using this, and we could only use it like once a month or whatever, because we only had two, and they were so expensive. So have you got any information about the BBC computer?
Yeah, I mean, the BBC's obviously quite an important machine in terms of computing history.
Yeah.
It's very, very popular, very much an educational machine.
Yeah.
And those families that had the money to go out and buy one, yeah, they might have bought one to... to educate their children. Yeah, we've got this one here, signed by some of the people who are involved in developing it. People like Herman Hauser and Chris Turner, Steve Thurber, and playing the game Elite, which is one of the first 3D computer games.
And did it have a mouse interface in this one?
It did have it could have a mouse. It was always a third-party option, so you could go out and buy the AMX mouse and the paint package. But as standard, no, it's just the machine that you see there.
Our school was cheapskates. That's why That's where I am. That's where I am now in my life, because you couldn't afford to get a mouse. Oh, no, I'm only joking. But yeah, and then we move on again. Apple II is this?
Yep, Apple IIe. Playing another sort of 3D game, Tank Battle, or Battlezone, I think. This was, I suppose, we've got quite a lot of home computers here, but this was between the two. That was used at home, but then also businesses picked up on those.
And I have got 6,000 points on that as well. So if you come here, you've got to try and beat that. Yep. Okay.
Was that really you?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
It took a long time though, but I couldn't enter my name, you see, so you can never prove it.
Yeah, whatever.
Then, move on to this military-looking device here. Now, Jason, I heard you say earlier that this is the first laptop in a sense.
Well, yeah, first portable computer, I think is probably the best description of it. Technically not. There was an IBM machine before, but it was thousands and thousands of dollars. This was the one that really did kick things off. And it's the Osborne One, and it's basically a suitcase with a computer squashed into it.
It looks like something you'd launch a nuke from in the 80s, do you know what I mean? Sort of Cold War gear or whatever.
Who knows?
The Amstrad with its lovely colourful keys. So we see the beige beast transforming from just, how they were to these nice colourful keys. And we can see the game here, Tapper being played. And we've got the classic rewind tape read error, which used to happen to a lot of people.
Absolutely, yeah. No, you weren't playing with computers unless you'd seen that screen day in, day out. I mean, we all waited, 15, 20 minutes only to get a data error.
I mean, they could never say that kids were addicted to computers back then, could they? Because we weren't doing anything. We were sitting waiting.
Just watching, yeah.
Watching
absolutely.
the colours and listening to the trippy music.
I was going to say, listening to the sounds. And that's probably why there's a whole generation of people just slightly on the edge now.
I've got a friend who listens to that on his Walkman.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
And he just walks around going... I'm not going to say who he is. Right, so in terms of Amstrad's history, where was this?
It's one of the early machines. Well, it's probably Amstrad's first machine to do under their own brand name, and it's the CPC 464. Like you say, it looks great.
It does.
It's one of my sort of favourite machines from that point of view, from looking at it. And probably, I'm not sure if it was, but I think it was one of the first machines to have the tape deck built in.
Yeah.
So we all had endless hours of trouble getting the volume just right on them and getting it wrong and waiting like we've just done. This thing had no volume control, and it was just put your tape in, load it, and kind of most of the time it worked.
Yeah, most of the time. Now, I believe the future is here, which is from the past. Now, I'll explain this. Now, we'd all like to have a dedicated desktop at home that could run games as well as a PS3 or an Xbox or something like that. Now, this machine sort of did that, didn't it?
Yeah, it did, yeah.
This is a fantastic machine. It's an Amstrad, but it's an Amstrad Mega Drive compatible machine. So, as Jason said to me earlier, you can slide this door across, whack in your cartridge, someone comes around, or your dad wants to use it or whatever, take the cartridge out, slide the door across.
Absolutely.
Did this sell a lot of units?
No.
No?
The thing is, A, it was fairly expensive. B, it got it wrong in that you had Dad had his PC and he wanted to use it for his work.
Yeah.
Kids wanted to use it for games. That needs to be two separate systems,
Yeah,
really.
right,
You know, because all it was is endless arguments about Dad doing his work or kids playing games.
Yep.
So, good idea. Unfortunately, just didn't sell that well.
Yeah.
And the trouble is, at the time, PCs just weren't powerful enough for gaming in themselves.
Yeah.
They could do the spreadsheets and word processing and stuff. But so yeah, a good idea. But unfortunately,
So Amstrad would have bought the technology from Sega to run that.
yeah, it's basically a Mega Drive on a card that goes inside, and you know, there you go.
There you go, fancy stuff. Right, now we're moving across to one of my personal favourites, and I had this, but I didn't have the wood panelled version, which looks like an old Rover. I had the Atari 2600. This is a 2600 VCS. Tell us a little about this one.
Right, well, this is very personal to me. I remember sort of 1977, Christmas Day, opening a Christmas present,
Get in.
Atari VCS console, and I spent probably the next, I don't know, year playing Combat and Space Invaders,
Yeah,
which was about the only two cartridges we had. But it was, you know, the first really of its type to bring consoles into the house.
Yeah.
Before that, we had the Pong,
Right,
Binatone sort of game consoles, and that's the original
See
Atari
Pong there,
yeah.
look, people.
But this one, you could have cartridges put in it, and you could play any sort of game you like.
I had Defender, I had Pole Position, which was a really rubbish racing game, because basically you didn't control the car, you just controlled the track.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
you just had the
that's
joystick and you went,
Yep.
we'll do that, we'll do this. I had quite a few games for that. I used to absolutely adore my Atari 2600.
They were brilliant. I mean, okay, they were terrible graphics, but a good game's a good game.
And it
doesn't
loaded
really
like that. I had John Madden's American Football on this, and it was absolutely wicked for its time. It never faltered, it never crashed, it never did anything.
Oh no, they were very reliable.
I didn't have one of these though.
No,
I had a very
we're
basic
cheating.
one.
We're cheating a little bit. I mean, the thing is with this now, we take this to a lot of exhibitions,
Yeah.
so that just sits there.
Right.
This is new. And the whole Atari system there, and I can't remember, about 12 games or something, is now built into that joystick.
Oh, it's one of those.
So, yeah, so we're cheating, I admit.
I was jealous. I was like, I never had one of those. Another peripheral option that I missed out on.
But rather than having cartridges kicking around that sort of go missing, we just do it with this at the moment.
Yeah.
So, but we've got a massive collection of 2600 games. So anybody that wants to come in and relive for real those games, they can do.
Did you hear that, old Gold Tech fans? You can come here, speak to lovely Jason, and have a play on these machines, but don't break anything. Right, we're moving across now to, again, it's got a lot of memory here for me. You either had an Atari or an Amiga when I was a kid. That's what you had. Well, you started off with a C64 or a Spectrum. Then we moved on to sort of the more big boy machines. This is when you got into comprehensive school. You were allowed one of these. I never had an Atari or an Amiga, but my next door neighbour had an Amiga, and we used to play Bubble Bobble on it, Rainbow Islands. That's where my love for that comes from. But his broke on the ejecting system there, and you had to jam scissors in it to get the disc out. Very dangerous stuff. But you have a few memories like that yourself, don't you? So?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, all these machines have got their own little personal history, and when they come into the place, they might be faulty, but you know that this machine probably suffered exactly as you said, and this one, the one we've got on display, has had another drive bodged into it to get it working again. We have really nice pristine ones we've got in storage. But so, yeah, that wasn't an uncommon problem. We have Spectrums with the M and the N keys where people are playing Daley Thompson's Decathlon. You know, those keys are usually shattered. So, yeah, they've all got their little stories to tell from the way that we use them.
And there's an Amiga over here as well. There's just all this fantastic kit.
They're
Apricot Portable, Texas Instruments computers there. But one of my favourites, which I was never allowed when I was a kid, was the portable Game Gear, which really wasn't very portable at all, but you could get this TV add-on for it, which I thought was absolutely fantastic, and I was never allowed one of those. But that, to me, is old gold tech. Right, next room.
Well, welcome back. So from the games room into the business centre room. Back again with Jason. So, Jason, there's a lot of really interesting business type stuff in here, ranging from Commodores to Apples. Tell us a little bit what you've got in here, particularly this interesting looking black box over here.
Right, okay, well this interesting black box is known as the Next Cube.
Right.
It was a machine that Steve Jobs developed when he was had his own company, because he was kicked out or left Apple at a certain point.
That's right.
So he left and he formed Next, and he basically developed the machine, in his mind, the perfect machine.
Wow.
But it was incredibly expensive at the time, so something around this would have been about $6,000. And it didn't really sell that well because of that.
No,
but
of course.
if you look at it, it's pretty much something like the G4 Cube.
Yes, yeah.
Quite a few years back.
Right.
So it's based on a Linux operating system, or Unix operating system, I should say.
Right.
It's got the cube style.
It's amazing.
It switches on with the keyboard, which was unusual for the time.
Yeah, because a lot of them didn't. And this thing is really, when he left Apple, as you said, he went on to sort of try and build this. But how many sort of actually sold?
I don't know the exact numbers, but it
Not
wasn't
many,
very many.
not many.
It wasn't very many. It was just purely the price tag. Steve Jobs has got this, you've got to appreciate it.
It's inflated price, yeah.
Well, yeah, and the want to build the perfect machine. It's got to be just right. So money isn't the issue during the design phase.
I see there's got mouse there, so it uses the Windows icon mouse
Yep.
pointers, and it looks very sort of OS 9-ish type of interface, and sort of taken from the
You can see all of the thinking.
So he probably came back to Apple and then said, right, this is the machine that I built. Let's try and now make the Mac,
Apple
make it as it is.
and bought up the stock and everything, and it become on the machines that we know today with the iMacs and everything else.
It's amazing, and the fact that you've got one. May I ask, where did you get this from?
This was part of my core collection years ago.
You
so I
bought
bought, simply nothing that amazing. Just bought it off eBay.
All right, I'm surprised that the ones knocking around on eBay because they're quite rare now.
I haven't seen very many since. But
and you acquired this how long ago?
Probably about 5-6 years ago.
Right, so quite a while. Amazing. Now I have noticed something that I'm really sort of keen on here. I've never seen this machine before. Big fan of the Spectrums, as you know, and we did that in show 1 with the Sinclair ZX and the Commodore 64. I didn't even know they did this machine. So this is a professional, serious machine from Sinclair, and I can see it's running DOS.
DOS, yeah.
Wow. So they switched BASIC, and this is aimed at businesses, right? So what type of things will be used on here? What could you actually do with it?
Well, it was a standard IBM PC, effectively, so you could run the same sort of software that you run on any system that run on MS-DOS. It's technically not really a Sinclair at all. It's an Amstrad.
Oh,
Everybody
really?
knows the Amstrad 1640 and the 1512s, the beige boxes. This was produced by Amstrad. And because Amstrad bought up the branding Sinclair,
yes, that's right. Yeah.
They put it on a PC as a last-ditch attempt to get some more sales using the Sinclair brand.
Yeah, because Sinclair had a really good name,
yeah.
And then Amstrad brought the CPC 464 and all those kind of things in. They brought all of the sort of home-based computers. The first one with the tape deck built in and all that kind of thing.
Yep.
But I never even realised.
Now this was exploiting the Sinclair brand, and it kind of failed.
Failed, yeah. And then that was it, really. The last sort of nail in the coffin for Sinclair.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So there's a lot of amazing kit. We've got the Commodore PET, and we'll sort of talk about those a little bit later. But this room really is aimed at all types of business machines.
Yeah, this is the higher end of the market, the business stuff. And we've got IBM systems there. You've got this box and the printer and the disk drives up there. That's just a word processor. So, hardly even a computer.
That's a large word processor.
And would you believe that system was actually producing the Grattan catalogue at the time?
Well,
not the layout, but all the text for it
and everything else.
was all set on that machine. So, so that's got a little bit of a history behind it.
That's amazing. So much history in this room, and there are so many sort of business machines that I didn't even realise, particularly from the shapes and sizes that there are and the sort of different styles. And over the years, and we're only talking a short space of time, relatively, aren't we?
Yeah.
There's been so many sort of different versions. But we're going to talk a little bit more about those a bit later, and we're going to move on to the next room right now. Hello, welcome back. Now we are in a very special room here, again with Jason. Jason, what goes on here and what is this wonderful piece of technology?
Okay, well this is the BBC Doomsday System.
Right.
One of the things the museum does as part of its job is to actually preserve equipment as well as software and information in general. So, and what we've got here is the BBC Doomsday System that basically highlights how things change in a very, very short space of time in technology. So it's based around a Laserdisc and a BBC Master computer.
Wow.
And it was a project done by the BBC 900 years after the original Doomsday book.
Right, okay.
So it had to be released at a certain time to coincide with that anniversary. And they used the Laserdisc, which is...
Yeah, you mentioned this before. So this is...
This thing.
So these were invented not that long ago, and they used to be able to play videos and all these kind of things. Yeah. This was like a competitor to VHS and all that kind of stuff. Yep. But I think got trashed when CDs came out, made them much smaller.
Absolutely.
So a lot of information is stored on these.
Yeah, there was an entire survey of the UK done at that time, and it was stored on this Laserdisc and the one that's in the machine there. And the trouble is with that is that because it became obsolete so quickly, all the schools and the children and everybody that played a part and put the information on there has never really got to see it.
No, okay.
And secondly, the system at the time was about $4,500. So in 1986, that's
a lot of money.
Price of a decent sized family car.
So you've got information here, and this is readily available for people to come and have a look at and look at their areas?
Yeah, you can come in and you can have a look around. So we can click on a different part of the map there.
Okay.
So there you go. So that's gone into the southern part of the country. Click on a local area, so Cambridge, and we have to give it a little bit of time. You can then zoom in sort of further. So this
is reading off the disc, all the information, and then you've got different zoom levels where you can zoom in and check out more detail, and then you can look at different records of the area where you're living, so what places that existed may not exist anymore, for example. So you keep an
and there's photographs of areas, and there's sort of textual information, lots and lots of write-ups of places. Each sort of town and village has sort of about 3 photographs of it.
Right, okay.
And that information is streamed straight from the Laserdisc. So we've got a sort of aerial shot there.
So the days before Google.
Absolutely,
and Google Maps. What Google's trying to do now and plot everything else, but this is already in place. Right. You've got more historical information here though than Google has.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, what we're trying to do is preserve all this and make sure that we've got it now in a form that can be made accessible.
Right.
So we have these now backed up onto a usable format. And just making sure this data isn't lost forever.
So how many discs have you got actually?
Well,
all the information.
These discs, there's 2 discs that make up the Doomsday System.
Right.
Okay.
Just 2. Right.
And then there's other discs that were released. So you have the BBC Countryside disc there and the Eco disc. But we've got quite a number of then other interactive video discs. So they weren't necessarily part of this project, but they use the same hardware.
So you just swap and change the disc and have a look.
Yeah.
And people can come in and take it.
A lot of it educational, so robotics discs and all sorts of things. And we've got quite a number of those. So
it's great for people to come in then and take a look, and you can come in again to the museum. You know, give them a call, get on their website, and you can check out this information for yourselves. It is amazing. We've had a quick look, and it's just brilliant. Which brings me on to 2 little pieces of equipment that I've just noticed here. The first one is an old Motorola portable phone, and for those people who haven't seen anything like this before, anybody who's like 10 years ago and so on. This was one of the first mobile phones available to it. Now you can see they're very portable. Tell us a little bit more about this. This is amazing.
Yeah, well, I mean, Motorola, obviously one of the first portable phones, as you've just said, but we have that kind of thing here. Not so much for the museum, but we get involved in quite a lot of TV work.
Yes.
So it is sprung from various TV companies contacting us to use computers on set. We kind of extended that and started widening our collection into just old gadgetry. So mobile phones, the early tape decks and hi-fi and TV and everything.
Amazing.
Telephones is quite big. So we kind of collect quite a lot of that now and then make it available, which then generates a little bit of money for the museum as well.
So you've supplied equipment to the likes of the IT Crowd, which is a popular TV show, and the Gadget Show as well, for sort of their demos and when they go live and their shows and stuff. So you've got so many different sort of bits of kit here, particularly the phones and stuff. And you've got a collection of these phones. And is this going to be part of the museum collection at some point?
Well, I think it probably will be, although not necessarily computing exactly.
No, but it's still...
But it's very much related.
Absolutely,
And the nostalgia side of it is massive.
It's huge.
People see these things.
Well, I had a Motorola Brick, not like this, it was a chunkier version, and I think I brought it into work once. And it was my first mobile phone. I think I bought it in 1989, and it was terrible. It just dropped calls all the time. The battery wasn't very long, but it was huge as well. And but people used to have these in the cars and everything, didn't they? Used to sort of make the portable versions.
Oh, they also held them nice and proud as well. Yeah, we were proud of these.
Oh,
things.
Absolutely.
If you could afford to have one of them, you know, you were someone.
And one's in the carry case as well. I remember.
Yeah, with separate bags, batteries on the side, so you just took the handset off the battery and made your call.
But it was because people were like, hello, and but brilliant. This is a really good piece of kit, and you should show these in the museum because I think there's a big deal for these.
Yeah.
Definitely.
We will be.
And there's one more piece of kit that I noticed, which is this. This is old music tech. If you remember the Rolf Harris stylophone. This is a little Casio electronic synth, and these were 20 years ago now, something like this, maybe.
A bit more sort of. I think about 80, 82, 83, something like that.
Right.
But I mean, this is a slightly later version. The Casio VL1 was the first of these things.
Oh, really?
Every kid in the school just had to have one. It was a calculator and a little keyboard at the same time.
Fantastic. So you could annoy everybody.
Yeah.
Whilst doing your maths.
Whilst doing your work, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And
Brilliant.
That didn't annoy teachers at all.
But again, I know you're focusing on mainly computers at the moment, but music tech is also huge.
Yeah.
And I think you could get into serious trouble with the amount of synthesizers you could probably end up sort of acquiring.
Well,
and
yeah,
buying
I mean, we've got a few synths, and
right.
we had one at the Gadget Show Live, and that got a huge amount of interest.
Oh, yeah.
A Yamaha CS5, just to be able to do some knob twiddling and
that's the thing. All the old analog synths are just amazing. Yeah,
yeah.
and it's getting hold of them now. That's the problem.
They're
quite expensive.
Big money.
They do. I've got an old Roland D20 synth, which isn't that old, but it still holds the same value. I think I paid £400 for it, and it's still £400 now.
Yeah, and it's only going to continue to go up.
Yeah, exactly.
So no, all that sort of thing. We're really interested in pretty much all old tech now. It's there is a side of it we can use to help support the museum, which is great. But then also maybe there's another part of the museum anyway, which is just technology in general. I mean, a lot of the old tech did have very basic sort of computer circuits in them anyway. So
sure, but they're quite robust as well.
Oh, yeah.
And the fact it's testament that they're still going today. All the computers they have on show are all working. You know, and I know you'll fix them when there are problems. But that's the great thing. You can actually come here and see them working in action. Play the games that we all used to play, and that's the big thing, because a lot of the time you can get these kit on eBay, but they're broken. And you probably saw in one of our previous shows that the ZX81 that we had half its keyboard not working, which is because it was broken. So, but there you go. Well, thank you so much again for letting us have a look around, and we'll see you in the other room in a few more minutes.
Right, so it's time to round up our day. I'm tired and I need some sugar, because it's been very tiring looking around this huge museum of old technology. I hope you've really enjoyed it. I know I have. I've
never seen so much kit. It's been absolutely amazing. We've seen stuff that I've never knew existed, stuff that I want to take home, stuff that I just want to keep looking at. And I think we could spend at least another day or two here, right?
You could easily. Every room's just got so much treasure in it. I mean, I never knew that there was an Amstrad computer that had a Mega Drive built into it. I thought that was just amazing, that piece of kit.
I never knew that Sinclair made a business machine that ran DOS, which was actually an Amstrad underneath.
I never knew that there was a BBC Doomsday project.
Nope. So we've learned a lot, and you know, all these phones that we've seen today as well have been amazing. The little brick one that we showed earlier is just great, and there's so much tech here, and we need to encourage people to actually come down and see this technology.
Yeah, just come
for themselves.
And show love to what was. Yeah, what brought us to our iPhones, what brought us to our Macs. I know we're always saying that, but to be honest with you, places like this need funding, they need support.
They do indeed, yeah.
And because it isn't prehistoric and it isn't in the ground and it's not being sifted through with some man with a beard and a brush who's sifting it up, you know, it's counted as not being relevant, but this is relevant and kids should come and see it. And
it's heritage. Without this, you wouldn't have your games consoles.
No.
Nothing would exist.
So we either need to get more funding for this, or I'm going to get a digger and bury it all, and then let people find it, and then it'll go into a big museum. So
before you do that, let's talk about what we felt were the best bits of tech here for us personally. Our own personal favourites.
For me,
get one each.
A cool. Can I have two?
Go on.
The Amstrad Mega Drive Beast. I thought that was quality. I've never seen that before, and it was a shame it didn't sell. Because to be honest with you, it may have made Amstrad even more powerful. And then it was wicked seeing the old Amiga and the ST, and especially sharing my memories of it with Jason about my friend breaking the disk drive and having to put scissors in it, because he said that when they got theirs in, they had to replace it for the same reason. So for me, that was brilliant.
For me, I mentioned it before, which was the Amstrad Spectrum Sinclair DOS machine that I never knew existed, and seeing a Spectrum QL, which I've never seen before, Quantum Leap.
Quantum Leap.
But there's so much I could go on. The Commodores that were here, the Commodore PET, the Amstrad CPC 464.
The Dragon.
The BBC Micro. I mean, there's just so much tech. I would encourage anybody who is interested in tech to come here and visit the museum. And you can visit them at these websites that are going to be strolling along the old screen in a minute. You can also contact them by Twitter, and we'll have all the contact information on there for you.
What about, also, what we want to do is, because there were so many machines here, if there is one that you want to know about or you want us to make a short film about, we will come and film that for you. We'll do a 2-minute section for you, but we need votes. If there's a machine you want to see and we haven't featured, tell us, tweet us, and we will come and do it.
So you can get to us by getting on the website at www.oldgoldtech.com. You can email us at fans@oldgoldtech.com and get on Twitter, and we're at oldgoldtech.
Right, so this is one of my favourite shows we've done so far. So this is me saying goodbye.
This is me saying goodbye. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon.